It was.
La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions, patrocinado por Cerveza Tecate Born Bold. Presenta nuestro siguiente cotejo, pactado a 6 rounds en la división de peso supermedio. 6 rounds of boxing in the super middleweight division. Your 3 judges scoring, sus 3 jueces, Sergio Cáez, Rudy Barragán y Alejandro Rochín. And your 3rd man at the bell, el tercero en la superficie, Ray Corona. Introducing to you first the fighter standing in the blue corner, wearing red trunks with black trim. His official weight, 163.6 pounds. Presentando ustedes en la esquina Tecate Azul, vistiendo calzoncillo rojo con negro, con un peso de 163.6 libras. Professionally, he stands with 19 victories, only 1 lone defeat, and 5 of those victories coming by the way of knockout. Presenta un récord de 19 victorias, 1 derrota, y 5 de esas victorias por la vía del knockout. Hailing out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Travis Scott. And his opponent across the ring, standing in the red corner, wearing multicolored trunks. His official weight, 163.6 pounds. Y su rival en la esquina Tecate Roja, vistiendo calzoncillo color multicolor, con 163.6 libras de peso. Professionally, he stands unblemished with 17 victories, 0 losses, 1 draw, and 8 of those victories coming by the way of knockout. Presenta un récord perfecto de 17 victorias, 0 derrotas, 1 empate y 8 de esas victorias por la vía del knockout. Representing Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania by the way of Raceland, Louisiana, Morgan FITCH. And here is to give out the final instructions, el tercero en la superficie, Ray Corona.
Peace. All right, it's perfect right here, touch gloves. God bless.
Ready to go between Morgan FITCH and Travis Scott in Indio, California. Look at the tail of the tape for this two.
Yeah, Fitch is 3 years younger at age 33. Scott is 1 inch taller, and his wingspan is 4 inches longer. We'll see if he's able to put that reach advantage.
Steve, you said it on that night that Triple G was fighting. BoxRec was crash. What did they find when it did open up about Fitch?
Well, he's relatively untested. I mean, his last victory, June 18th, was not a really big one. And also his last fight in February against Timothy Hall has not really stepped up. And as you've mentioned, this is a bit of an audition in front of the Golden Boy brass.
He is undefeated. His Finch with the Indian, Native American colors around him. The design. 17-0, turned pro in 2010. Fights in Pennsylvania, most of them. Louisiana, West Virginia. This is his first fight west of the Mississippi.
Very engaging guy, Morgan FITCH. I had a chance to talk to him a little bit. I saw something I didn't seen before yesterday at the weigh-in. He's one of the few fighters, instead of drinking a sports drink or Pedialyte, actually has spicy V8, which makes him a fan favorite of mine. He says it's great for the vitamins, the potassium.
They still sell V8?
And the mineral. As a fan of V8, yes. And by the way, I only drink it for the flavor, but he actually had a big jug, and he said it's the best thing to actually coat the stomach before you actually go eat after a weigh-in.
Travis Sweet Feet Scott is his opponent. He's in the red. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, from the Bayou. First time fighting outside of the southeastern U.S. area. He switches from southpaw to orthodox.
A lot.
Yep. Only his 3rd fight since May of 2013. Hasn't fought more than a year. So, let's see how much ring rust the 36-year-old Scott has.
Interesting. Scott is the taller fighter, but he might be the naturally smaller fighter. 8 to 10 years ago, he was fighting at weights as light as 148 and 151 pounds. He's probably matured into a natural middleweight, but Fitch appears to be a natural super middleweight.
Both Fitch weighed in at 163, as did Scott, for this 6-round bout. Try to find some video on Morgan FITCH and on Travis Scott, as we normally do. Go, YouTube has everything. Really not much footage out there on either of these fighters.
Now, these guys are under the radar. In fact, it's kind of surreal for me to see.
In this day and age?
Yeah, 2 fighters from Louisiana, and I was actually in Baton Rouge and New Orleans earlier this week. So the state followed me here to Southern California.
Yeah, Fitch, originally from Louisiana, moved to Pittsburgh. Training over there with the name Paul Spadafora.
Right, in fact, that's his trainer, Tommy Yankello, veteran boxing guy, best known for working with the Mercurial Southpaw.
And Yankello is a very knowledgeable trainer, very good trainer, probably underrated.
Final seconds of the opening round between Morgan, Big Chief Fitch, and Travis Sweet Feet Scott. Second round of action, Morgan Fitch with the aqua around his waist. Take on Travis Scott in all red. Fitch 17-0-1. The name that stands out when you look at his box rec, Darnell Boone.
Oh, the Diesel.
The godfather of gatekeepers.
Steve, you love that guy, don't you?
No, I do, because he is a true boxing soldier. This is a guy, I mean, again, Warden Kovalev, who has a more unique perspective than him. He has faced both guys and actually had success. He floored Andre Ward back in his 10th pro fight with the right uppercut, had a split decision loss to Kovalev in their first outing, also faced Adonis Stevenson.
And Fitch struggled to a 6-round draw against Diesel, but he's in a good club.
Yeah.
Guys who have struggled with Darnell Boone include the guys who are in the main event tomorrow.
He gave Willie Monroe his first loss.
Yes.
Darnell Boone, check out Steve. Did you write that one? Or?
Yes, I did.
A lot of good stuff on UCN Live. I keep seeing the Coyote Duran retweets. I don't know if you wrote it or he wrote it. Check him out, UCN Live.
Coyote just cleans up the numerous editorial mistakes that I make as I hand in those
A
stories.
shout out to Coyote
Yes.
Duran and all copy editors.
All Duran shout-outs get from me. And then also check out Doug's mailbag on Friday and Monday. What's the email for that?
Dougie@boxingmailbag.com.
It's so good. And keep using the hashtag RingTVLive. We are checking them out. We'll send you your shout-out as the night progresses. We're in Indio, California, watching Morgan Fitch and Travis Scott.
Kind of a backhanded jab from Travis Scott. Some referees will not allow it. Other referees will, but it can be a bothersome type of punch if it's something you haven't seen before.
Little redness underneath the left eye of Travis Scott in the red trunks. And everybody has an opinion here of the Fantasy Springs Resort and Casino. You're hearing it. There you go. There's that combination the fan wants him to throw. Well, this is also 2 fighters that are not from the area. You have to figure out, okay, who is this? So you're going to come in, you better put on a show.
You know, Beto, as you mentioned, this being a bit of a tryout for the Golden Boy brass for Fitch, I think he has to be a little bit anxious. I think there's more pressure on him, not just to win, but to also look good in what is his debut here on the West Coast.
It's not going to be easy to look good against a guy whose nickname is Sweet Feet, and he's constantly switching stances. And he looks athletic. I mean, he looks like he's fast and nimble out there. A defensive-minded fighter, stick and move guy, and like I said, he's got one of those jabs, especially when he's in the orthodox stance, where it's a backhand.
Final seconds of the second round. It is scheduled for 6 between Fitch and Scott in Indio. Getting the hands wrapped, our main event, Mauricio El Maestro Herrera, the teacher. Riverside, California, gonna have a lot of friends and family in attendance. He's from about an hour away from where you are tonight. Sand Springs Resort and Casino. Started boxing as a pro at the age of 27, quickly made the right moves up the ranks, fan-friendly style. And our co-feature coming up next, Keandre Gibson, St. Louis, Missouri, undefeated, 15-0, a lot of action as he takes on Maoni Montes from Los Mochis, Mexico, Sinaloa, where his opponent's from. Keandre now living in Las Vegas. That's coming up next, but right now we're watching Morgan Fitch and Travis Scott. As always, thanks to everybody watching us, Linus in Pennsylvania, and Don José Vitela, que nos está mirando desde Montebello. Y sí, ¿por qué se ponen faldas? No sé. Third round of action.
Take a step back. Turn around.
Fitch, a lot of people seeing him for the first time, and by a lot of people, almost everybody. And it's going to be hard for him to look good against Travis Scott. He has that awkward style.
Yeah. You know, Carlos Acevedo, who writes for various sites, a really talented guy, he would describe Travis Scott as a junk baller. And you're right. If you wanted to match up Fitch in a way that he'd look impressive and score a highlight reel type of knockout, this is not exactly the blueprint. I wouldn't have matched him this way. But again, you want to see what he has. And this has been a competitive fight. And I think me and Doug, it's interesting. I have it 20-18. And Doug, you actually gave the second round to Scott.
I did. I thought he was a little bit more effective in his style of boxing, mainly landing those jabs that are kind of reddening the right eye of Fitch.
You do see some power from the hands of Fitch. Married, father of 3, 2 girls, a boy. Grew up in Louisiana, not much boxing around where he was from. Made the move to Pennsylvania. That's where he really found his way around the boxing world. Turned pro in Pennsylvania back in 2010. As the mouthpiece gets knocked out, and then Scott says no, and he's starting to talk. His left eye is starting to swell.
Yeah, you see like a little bump forming underneath that left eye. And it's telling us that in the dislodged mouthpiece that the right hands of Fitch are beginning to find their mark.
As Ray Corona stops it to go pick up the mouthpiece, a break in action.
Fitch is going to need some help with those trunks, which look heavy.
Yeah,
they are sliding down.
Like that. Ray's like, look, he goes to the corner of Fitch, asks for water. They're like, no, that's not our mouthpiece. Give me the water.
You know what? I actually like that move for one reason, and it doesn't really fit here, but that'll ensure that the mouthpiece gets washed off very quickly. I've seen that as a stall tactic in certain fights. They'll take their sweet time going up the ropes. They'll fiddle with the water bottle. You want that thing washed off quickly, go to the opposite corner.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's a lid on here. Oh, got to take the cover off. Jab from Scott in the red trunks. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the Bayou. SEC country, right? If you're an LSU fan. Steve, of course, ACC all the way with Miami. What are you doing in Louisiana, Doug?
Visiting family.
That's right, you got family down there.
New Orleans and Baton Rouge.
Don't get too many fighters coming out of there.
No, not anymore. Got to go way back for standout fighters out of Louisiana.
Final seconds of the round between Fitch and Scott in Indio.
Fitch trying to back Scott up with his jab, lands the right hand, which dislodges the mouthpiece. There it goes. Fitch stalking throughout round 3.
You have to jab right. You have to jab first. That's what we talked about. You're waiting on his jab. You got to jab first.
And cut the ring off.
Then you got to cut the ring off and shoot the fucking right hand. You're pushing him into the right hand. You got to win the rest of the rounds.
Pick up his stance. All right, mouthpiece is still out. Let's go. You're listening to the red corner of Morgan Big Chief Fitch.
That was Tom Yankello, and I thought he gave Fitch very good advice, which is to close that distance with his jab. Don't wait. Don't be beat to the jab by Scott. Beat Scott to the jab. And that'll help him cut the ring off.
Scott in the red trunks. Fitch bringing some aggression here to open up the round. Swelling from the left eye of Travis Scott. He's doing a lot of talking in there. He switches from orthodox to southpaw. Finally a shot landed in this fight.
That was the first major left hook landed by Fitch, and it woke Scott up, who returns fire.
Crowd's been yelling for these guys to throw. Finally get a little something. Here in the fourth round, it's scheduled for 6. As this time, Fitch's mouthpiece is dislodged. Now I see what you're talking about, Steve. That mouthpiece was washed a little bit longer in that corner. All right.
You know, although, if you're Tommy Yankello at that point, I think that Fitch is having some offensive success, starting to, I don't want to say break him down, but I don't think you want a long break in this particular circumstance.
You hear Ray Coronel saying, watch your feet. The southpaw is Scott. Worried about a clash. I think there might have already been a clash. Ray was over here yelling at us and something happened to the eye of Fitch. And there you see some blood from the nose and the eye. Morgan Fitch, we're asking between rounds what happened there. Fitch undefeated, 17-0-1. Patient fighter. Travis Scott is not going to allow you to get any kind of solid licks off of him. The way he moves around. And if this is an audition for Morgan Fitch, interesting opponent that they chose.
Yeah, this was a tough opponent to shine against. Because like you said, it's hard to hit him. His body's always at an angle. He's constantly switching stances, and he's constantly moving. That's a tough target.
Less than a minute to go. There was a big shot landed, but it was to the back of the head of Fitch. And you see Scott apologizing for it.
He's a gentleman.
He's a gentleman's sport. Ain't a gentleman anymore.
Yeah. Fitch he hit on the break, I think, or tried to.
Veteran dudes, Fitch at 33, Scott 36. And you can see Scott's not going to allow him to do anything, whereas Fitch is trying to pick up the pace a bit. Well, Roy Jones from the Florida area, right? The Panhandle?
Yep, from Pensacola.
So maybe he's seen Fitch against different opponents. 10 seconds to go in the fourth round. It's scheduled for 6. Crowd begging for any kind of action right now. Right. Punch, got it.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind the crowd, December 16th, Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy promotion returns here to Fantasy Springs Resort Casino.
You're not throwing your combinations to finish him with a jab. And you got to double your jab up to the body to head like you're doing in sparring. You hear me?
December 17th. Live on HBO.
You have to double your jab. You have to feint, double jab, up and down your body. You have to push the fight right now. You have to win the last 2 rounds. You're going to blow the fight.
It's all going down December 16th here at Fantasy Springs. December 17th.
Right to the body, left hook from Fitch. Scott spins off the ropes. Fitch trying to find a home for his jab, not having an easy time. Scott remains elusive and crafty.
As always, thanks for checking in. Daenerys Rocio, huge fight fan, connected to the families in the boxing world. Yes, we are trying to give you the background on these fighters. First time you see them, we got to give you the bios of who they are. They sit down with the Ring TV cameras. They give a lot of information and introduce them to you here. That's what we do here on Ring TV. checked in with Ray Corona between rounds. He said that the cut on the eye of Morgan Fitch was a result of a punch, not a headbutt.
And that punch was landed in the last round? Or
Yeah, in the last round.
4?
Early on in the 4th round.
Okay, in the 4th round.
Early on. And as Ryan Scalia mentioned, the original opponent, Issah SAMIR, was scheduled for Morgan Finch. SAMIR, a different style than Finch, would have been in there.
Much more aggressive. I think he would have been more there, as they say. We saw his brother a couple of months ago, 2008 Olympian Basti SAMIR.
Yep.
Yeah, if he's anything like Basti, he's aggressive.
Yeah, Scott is certainly someone who floats like a butterfly and doesn't sting at all. This is a very, very elusive style to try to really corral. One thing Yankella wanted in between rounds, he wanted some of Fitch's combinations to start to the body and then work your way up with the right hand over the top.
5th round scheduled for 6. Big Chief turned pro in 2010. Got married to his wife Jamie in Jamaica. Baby boy Morgan Jr. I like Travis Scott. Every single time he is talking. 1-2, gets hit with the right, sticks out the tongue. The tongue was already coming out. Well, there you see some of the potential that Morgan Fitch does have. A little pop.
As you see Scott, Doug, I could tell he's been very influenced by the likes of Roy Jones.
Oh, yeah.
You can just
Unfortunately,
really
doesn't
tell.
have the explosive power of Roy Jones.
You know, Roy Jones is like the Hope Diamond. There's not a lot of them. I mean,